Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Eye on Icon. Again, we are going to bring you all the latest news, and the biggest news of the week has been balanced. With me today, as always, Icongrapher. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's nice to see obviously nice to see Balance launch. We'll talk about that in a second here, but also nice to see the markets kind of turn around. I think as of this time, 72 hours ago, everyone was wondering if we're in a bear market and then everything's over. And now everything's starting to bounce back pretty nicely. Icon's been a nice little run and Bitcoin dominance is going down. So everything seems to be moving in the right direction again. And everyone in the crypto Twitter and Telegram seems pretty happy again. So it's just funny how quickly things crypto, that's for sure.
Definitely doom and gloom last week. Although, if you looked in between in terms of the data, what was going on chain, off chain, the few people I follow, they very much called it things were at a premium, over leveraged, etc., etc. They always
Yeah.
said this is a healthy, correct technical correction that's going on. It's not essentially miners moving their bags to, dump and then take profits, which is good to see. And, this has completely just come to me in the spur of the moment. Just yesterday, I saw some tweets. Elon Musk, he has this ability to really impact our crypto markets, especially with Dogecoin. But I won't rant on about that. But he got asked regarding the Tesla's Bitcoin holdings, and he actually mentioned that a portion of it was sold to the market, which actually didn't impact the market negatively. It was viewed in a very positive light. And his narrative was he was testing how much he could, essentially, could he support taking profits without collapsing the markets, etc. And it passed. So if you're looking for details, definitely look around. But from series of tweets, a lot of people were questioning and asking how did the test go, and he actually commented, going, "It proved extremely successful." So this is good news. This is all great news for the crypto world.
Yeah, it's certainly nice to know that, I think it was a $250 million sale or something like that. Basically didn't shock the markets like I think beforehand, if you told a lot of people that much Bitcoin was going to get sold in a pretty short amount of time, they would have thought it would have plunged it down to 10K or something.
Exactly.
So the fact it really didn't make a blip even outside of the standard kind of levels of noise that we're typical of seeing from Bitcoin's volatility. Yeah, it was certainly a nice thing to see. And some people thought Elon just spinning the fact that he took profit on Bitcoin, which may be true, but at the same time the fact remains that Tesla did sell that amount and didn't rock the markets a whole great deal.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just goes to show, like, and we don't talk about this often, but MicroStrategy and all, in the background, this is all healthy. The fact that so much is being accumulated, then there's more of a narrative that if someone sells these companies that have now got so much into Bitcoin, when they see these prices scoop down to their purchase prices, they're probably going to buy in further to, because that's what their goal is, right? So anyway, personal views. That's the way I see it, and it appears to be happening every time we see these real sharp corrections. You look at some of the on-chain data charts, you can see large quantities leaving Coinbase and, Coinbase particularly, because that's where they do the institutions have been buying from, heading out to these wallets because they're stepping in and buying those at that great rate. So good to see, good to see. But you know what? We could keep talking about the broader crypto market, but let's bring it back to Icon. We know Balanced has launched. Huge launch, slight delay when it started, when it was about to launch, but then it got out the door. How do you think it's been going?
Yeah, well, on one hand, I think everyone who's been using it has been really impressed and excited, both in terms of the user interface, which is super slick, not just from I think when you look at it just on the surface, it's, it's not immediate, it's complicated protocol, right, to begin
Mm,
with. So it's maybe not immediately intuitive, but I think it's as intuitive as you could possibly get for something that has this level of complexity to it. I think the way that, when you use the slider to take out collateral and
mm,
seeing exactly where where the price points are, where the liquidation is, but even on the subtle things like the way the notifications work, where they just kind of pop out, the way you can easily switch between wallets, the way that the DEX is set up, and there aren't charts yet, but there will be soon. I'm looking forward to those. But once. once you use the, if if coming in fresh, once you use the protocol for just a couple minutes, maybe a little bit longer than that, I think it's pretty easy to figure out. And if you understand the underlying mechanics of how the DeFi protocol works, you can get up and running pretty quickly. So I saw a bunch of people commenting on Twitter saying, hey, I've used different DeFi products, and I've
Mm,
been super impressed by how easy it is to use this one, how straightforward it is, and how kind of, again, noting that DeFi can get pretty complex, how relatively non-complex it really is to use, and how user-friendly it really is. And I know that team has been working really, really hard, basically since day one of this project, to create a really satisfying user experience, and make it as easy to use as possible. So that was certainly nice. On the downside, I think if you're listening to this and you've been using Balance, there were some initial kind of hiccups and bugs and things like that. Nothing of any sort of, anything significant to where, thousands of dollars were lost or liquidity pools got drained or anything like that. But certainly some bugs causing frustration. Me, for instance, when I first tried to log on, it was right when an initial kind of bug hit and kind of made it hard to do anything, if not impossible, for a few hours. So I had to be a bit patient, but once they got resolved, I was able to get up and running. And there's been some other little hiccups here and there, but the Telegram community, the Reddit community, I think everyone's been pretty helpful in terms of trying to get people to help kind of resolve bugs or explain them, or at least kind of figure out how to work around them. And then I think the Balance team has done a good job of communicating as best they can in terms of, hey, we're aware of this, we're trying to fix it, we're trying to get it resolved. And so, I didn't expect a necessarily 100% polished launch, and we certainly didn't get it. But again, nobody's funds got raided, funds got stolen. In some cases, people did think funds were missing, but it was either because of they didn't know what impermanent loss was, and so
mm.
they'd be providing liquidity on a pool, and all of a sudden they'd say, hey, I have X number of tokens less than I started with. What's going on here? And people had to chime in and say, hey, it's important you learn about impermanent loss. Or, you know, um, the way that, they'd see their ICX went missing when they provided to the ICX or SEIX pool, not realizing that, when you provide to that pool at a certain point in time, that ICX gets converted to SICX. That's just the way it works. And so, there might be some modifications on the UI front to tweak some things to make it a little bit better to understand some of these more complex ways the protocol works. But I would say on net, everyone's been pretty happy with it thus far. But interested to hear your take as well.
Look, you've covered so much there, and I want to break little parts down because I've learned so much since it's been released. So certain aspects of it that the way I thought it worked. Obviously, on launch, as you play with it, you see it working properly, on mainnet versus what it's doing on testnet or even the prototype. I mean, you can't compare. But look, initially, yes, delayed launch, little things like that are to be expected. Overall, though, everyone's impressed with the UI. People take it from me, who has used a lot of DeFi on Ethereum, etc. Beautiful UI, very simple to use. Everything, as soon as you touch, it's giving you the information you want to see, and that is important because some of the protocols don't do that, and other companies or people create layers on top to help make it simpler to use on Ethereum, etc. Some of those DeFi protocols that exist. So Balance doesn't even need that. It's just beautiful and simple to use. But to your point, if you've never used DeFi, it is a different world, and it's hard to understand, or can be a little tough to just wrap your head around. I know I had to watch videos and videos and videos before I started, understanding how the DeFi space works. Overall, the big a big call out, that you see, and we've touched on, and I want to just work through it as well. Essentially, when you're adding your ICX as collateral, when you do that step, it is staking your ICX. Probably one thing you're not seeing is,
And you're referring to adding collateral as step one to take out a loan. Basically, is adding collateral.
exactly.
That's what you're referring to in this case. Yes.
Exactly. So coming right back to the start, the first thing you go to do is you take your ICX. Yes, ICX unstaked. You have to have unstaked ICX in your wallet. That's the only way it'll let you leave your wallet. And you add it as collateral. What this process is doing is depositing it into the balance contracts and staking it at the same time. What you may not see is what you have deposited. You don't see it labeled as SICX in your wallet. And that will always be the case because it is that ICX is converted to SICX, whatever the value of SICX is, and I will touch on this in a moment. However, it's as collateral, so you can't touch that. That is locked away. It is still earning every day what you would, that total amount of ICX is earning its staking rewards, but you still cannot play with that. It is locked away for that loan unless you repay the loan, etc. So that's one of the first things I noticed a lot of people asking questions about, and really understand that part. So apart from that, yes, the other thing is liquidity. We always knew this would be the case with the impermanent loss, and we've called it out a few times. Make sure you understand what this is. One interesting part I liked, well, I caution, as soon as the first distribution of the balance token happened, so we know 100,000 got released in the first day. There was nothing pre-mine. All of a sudden, we had a pool created on the DEX, which was the balance BNUSD. Now, obviously, not 100,000 just enters this pool. It was a very small amount of balanced and BNUSD paired up. So, you saw the balance price just start to skyrocket because people were like, oh, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy it. And as soon as everyone bought it, it was creating this huge, well, the balance token price was increasing per trade. People were adding liquidity, but there just isn't enough around based on the amount of noise and volume and everything was happening, was just driving the balance price, the token price really high. Now, I straight away went to Twitter, caution everyone, understand that. Does this mean balance is going to $1,000? Probably not. And if it actually did, it would be extremely temporary, because we do know every day 100,000 more balance will keep hitting the ecosystem, as more balance hits and is in circulating, it will start leveling out everything going on in the ecosystem. What are your views? I want to spend a bit of time on this, Icongrapher. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was fairly kind of, I guess say, blown away by the initial price of balance. I kind of thought, oh, maybe in the $10 range will be pretty optimistic, but it's really hard to tell how people want to price this thing. There is, there's the value in the fact that it's a governance token, right? So you have rights over what is a protocol that could be generating, millions of dollars per year, if not way more than that. And then also the fact that it returns fees. So I think a lot of people are thinking, okay, this will be pretty profitable to hold on
Mm.
to for passive income. And also the fact that, yeah, there was such a limited distribution to begin with that I think people, wanted to kind of get in on the ground floor and be one of the first to own balance when there was such a limited supply, both from the fact that there was, only 100,000 minted initially, but also the fact that not everyone, it's not that all 100,000 people wanted to sell initially, also to begin with. So very limited supply. So obviously, the price kind of went up to 75 or 80, something like that, and then throughout the last 24 hours has kind of, has been falling and falling and falling. It's settled right now around $35 or so, which I still think is pretty impressive. I think it all kind of ties back to what the yield is for the protocol itself. I saw a screenshot from Ricky Dodds. I don't know what time this was exactly, but it showed that on the borrowing and taking out and adding collateral and borrowing icon dollars, or I'm sorry, balance dollars, you would get 18,000% APY, which is if you do the math on that, on about $1,000 on terms of compounding daily, it turns into a number that literally runs off the side of your screen. So obviously that probably wasn't sustainable. So as the day's gone down, it's gone down more and more, especially as the price of balance has gone down, as well as the fact that more and more people are adding liquidity to various pockets on the protocol, meaning that, the amount, if you had X number of dollars yesterday, the number of tokens you'd be receiving for that is a lot lower than it was.
Yeah.
Today it's a lot lower than it was yesterday. So you're getting less tokens, and the price went down. So obviously those two factors mean that your yield from that collateral you're providing or your liquidity you're providing is going to go down. That being said, I think on the loan it's right now, I just checked it was around 4,000%. I think the lowest is on the providing liquidity in the ICX/SICX pool But even that's at 300 or 400%, which is, if you do the math on that, if that were to stay consistent for a year, that's a pretty good return on your
Well,
capital, and that's kind of one of the lower risk options too. So, I don't expect. I also don't, 18,000 certainly wasn't sustainable. I don't anticipate 4,000 being all that sustainable. And this is kind of the way DeFi tends to work, is those initial really kind of gaudy numbers, they draw in a lot more people.
mm,
But as more people get drawn in, obviously those numbers go down, but obviously more people being into the protocol makes it healthier, makes it more valuable over the long term. So it's kind of a seesaw situation, but that's why there's kind of benefits to getting into things early, just because there usually are, higher rewards on the front end.
yeah, and I think this APY. I've seen a lot of posts and things like that, and it's ensuring everyone understands this APY is essentially determined via the balance token being rewarded. So if balance is trading at $80, well, your APY is going to be through the roof. But as Icongrapher mentioned, what you have is everyone going crazy advertising this. Great, more people see it, haven't explored Icon, no DeFi, will jump in to capitalize on the opportunity. Now, they probably have no skin in the game or love for the balance protocol. They're just trying to capitalize on making money. Come in, start mining it, dump balance the second it's been mined. Naturally, they're banking profits, but at the same time, the API in that fashion will keep dropping, because what you'll see then start happening is the price is starting to stabilize, more liquidity, balance is hitting the markets, getting deposited as liquidity. These all have an overarching impact to stabilizing the price. So, I know, Icongrapher, you're bullish in terms of, I'm very going to be very blunt. This APY is not sustainable, will not last much longer. So everyone be cautious. At the same time, I will call out as well, when you're adding liquidity, especially to this particular pool, yes, you get the rewards of the balance token, but remember, at the moment, if you're adding, say, let's just keep it simple, one balance, and if you add it, say, when it's trading at you're $70, you're adding $70 on the other side. Obviously, you come back 5 hours later and the price has dropped to $30, you got some solid impermanent loss there. So I'm just saying, be cautious. You don't want to get, or if you're playing around, play with smaller quantities so you understand a couple of days of losing out on some rewards is okay if you gain a lot of confidence via that experimenting, rather than throwing in your entire bag and 2 days later you're worth half that, which may not happen. But again, I always tend to be cautious. So when I was seeing these APY tweets, I was excited, and I understand it's great to get that attention, but really understand how and why these APYs are so ridiculously high, because of the low circulating supply that is changing every day. So yeah, I think I could keep harping on and then start repeating myself, but I'll pause there. Icongrapher, the only thing I did we touch on this? And I want to make sure we did. So we mentioned, we always talk about this ICX and SICX pool. So apart from all the other pools that you can add liquidity to, there is a pool that's labeled ICX and SICX pool. This is different because it doesn't suffer impermanent loss, because you're not pairing it with a stable coin. Well, you're not pairing it. Essentially, all you're doing is when you deposit ICX into this pool, and it stays there as ICX, and you earn your balance token rewards. You don't get staking rewards. But one thing that I haven't called out, and I've only learned and want to make sure it's clear to everyone as well, is what the reason that pool exists is it allows people who hold SICX to pay a small fee to unstake their staked ICX instantly and get ICX, rather than waiting the 7-day period. Okay, that staked ICX comes from this pool of ICX. Now, what happens is, obviously, if it's doing a swap, what is really happening is the staked ICX is being replaced in that pool, and the ICX has been taken from that pool. So over time, if you've supplied liquidity, keep an eye on that pool, because what you'll find is this happened to me yesterday as I was testing. Remember, I said test with small quantities. I put 200 ICX into this pool for 2 days, and yesterday, late in the evening, I noticed, oh, wait a minute, my 200 ICX that clearly all day I've been looking that I've supplied as liquidity has vanished. What's going on? Obviously, I panicked and started reaching out to Tony and Scott and what's going on here? Why has my ICX vanished? But before I got any responses, I quickly noticed, oh, if I went to the withdraw section, my ICX had moved to staked ICX. And then after then chatting to
And
Tony,
that was the withdrawal. That was if you go to the supply liquidity page at the bottom on that SICX ICX pair,
yeah,
it typically says here's your liquidity. At the far end of that bar or that line, there's a button that says withdraw. That's what you're referring to in this case, correct?
exactly.
Yeah.
So when you hover over that, all of a sudden that 200 that was sitting there in as liquidity is it a little box pops up and it's telling me I don't have ICX there, but I have staked ICX, and I notice my 200 ICX has been converted to staked ICX. But that's how this pool is meant to work. Because remember, there was a post recently regarding it. It's a queue setup. So everyone who deposits ICX in there, they earn the balance rewards. Eventually, though, as people keep paying that fee to instantly unstake, it gets swapped out. So you need to keep an eye on this pool. If you have been swapped into staked ICX, from what I understand it, then if you want to partake in the pool, you need to then you can go through the 7-day process of unstaking, and I'm making sure I mention this because if you then just try to swap out, you're paying a fee. However, if you actually use the 7-day unstake,
that's a 1% fee, correct?
exactly one. So
Yeah.
essentially at the start, because the staked ICX is still pretty much on par with ICX, you're going to lose out on ICX. So make sure you're aware of this. Run through if you just go through the 7-day unstaking process, and then you can again add that ICX in the pool or whatever your strategy is. My point is that it does swap. Make sure you click that button. That's where it is. It hasn't vanished. And to make sure if you're trying to swap it back, you know that if you use the swap function from SICX to ICX, you're going to pay a 1% fee to have it swapped instantly. I have rambled. Icongrapher, your thoughts?
No, I think we covered everything pretty well. I think if you have questions, there's a Icon DeFi chat that I've created that's still relatively small, so still pretty easy to kind of get your question answered, things like that. There's also the official balanced Telegram, which is getting more and more busy by the day. So harder to get your question answered there just because there is so much inquiry there. But either way, I think those have been pretty helpful in terms of getting people's questions answered and concerns alleviated when it comes to issues like the one Fez just described. But I'm excited to keep using it moving forward. Hopefully the APY stays as high as possible. But yeah, as we've kind of both alluded to, 4,000% as it is now, or whatever 1,000% it is in each little pocket, probably not sustainable. Expected to go down, but hopefully it's still a pretty lucrative endeavor and keeps people using it. And as I've used balance and gotten accustomed with it and had some pretty profitable strategies, I'm even more excited now for the launch of OMM, which a lot of the same cast of characters are working on. So I expect a pretty similarly impressive product, and one that we can kind of take some of the earnings and we can take that balanced USD that we might have taken out that's just kind of sitting in our wallet now, or we can take some or the balance itself and we can loan it out. So it just creates another little Lego on the Lego block process. So getting glad we checked balanced off the list and look forward to using that over the coming months. But now I'm even more excited for the other DeFi protocols that should be coming out over the coming months.
Yep, agree. And I noticed one thing around oh, look, we have so much balanced news, and as it comes through, I may trickle little other tidbits in. Let's keep moving, Icongraph. Otherwise, we could spend an hour
Yeah.
talking about this.
Well, and right before Balance launched, we did get some more kind of impressive news about it. There were 3 partnerships announced. CMS Holdings was one of them. They're a really kind of venerated entity in the DeFi space. They've supported several notable projects, including Vega, Equilibrium, Dodo, and Alchemix. So they just kind of help provide general support, provide, kind of, I don't want to say incubator, but provide resources, provide guidance, things like that. Kind of similar. Another one was FBG Capital. In their case, they're a digital asset management firm and blockchain incubator. So again, they've helped with Equilibrium as well. MakerDAO, which is very similar to Balanced, CoinList, Ampleforth, Ren, and Terra. I think all those projects are mostly well known and pretty high up on the list. So another kind of partnership that gives even more credibility to Balanced. And the last one is Band Protocol, which is the Oracle solution that we use. So if you're using Balance, there's a on the collateral page where you take out a loan, it'll list what the price of ICX is, which determines whether or not whether you're eligible for rewards or whether your collateral gets locked if the price dips low enough, or if your collateral even gets liquidated if it drops way low enough. That's not just one single price feed. That's pulled from multiple different sources using the Band Oracle. So to have a stable, reliable Oracle, which Band is doing for Balance, it's a super important part of the process. So, all these, I think collectively it just shows that there's a lot of support around Balance. I think the Balance team itself is very impressive and they've done a lot of good work. But having these other kind of outside support to provide additional resources, and whether it's liquidity or general counsel or whatever else it might be, I think it makes the project even more impressive, and like I said, adds more credibility to it. So that was in the lead up to the actual launch. That was a nice little tidbit that the community got to see and get even more excited for Balanced.
Look, I think, and just to draw on that particular with the partnerships, this FBG Capital, like they have been involved with some of the biggest game changers in the crypto space. MakerDAO, Ren. Ren is essentially the first protocol that tokenized Bitcoin onto another chain in a decentralized manner. Terra, like these are huge, and the fact that we have that support and they've done this, like Balanced isn't new. Okay, these protocols exist on other chains. Balanced is a well thought out protocol that ensures it uses Icon's strengths, which ensures we get our staking rewards, and all that's built into it, and it's so much more. So the fact that we have they have that backing and that exposure and that experience behind and that partnership is just brilliant. And I'm glad you touched on the band protocol, because this is something people have been worried about, and as we progress I may highlight a couple of things. So I will post the article notes because I did reach out to Scott as well and get clarity around this. The band price feed is over 6 different price feeds that get aggregated into it. So I know, for example, on Binance US a week ago, we had a flash crash and ICX essentially dropped to 75 cents almost in a 5-minute candle, or how this tends to happen in crypto to random coins, including Bitcoin and Ethereum. So there was a bit of panic because the way Balance works is essentially.
And that was, you said it was on Binance US, right?
Just Binance US, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
So the first thing
It's
I
a
did.
low vol. Icon's not the highest volume coin.
Yep.
It's certainly not the lowest, but it's not super high. But also you take that and factor in the fact that it's Binance US, which is one of the lower volume exchanges as far as Icon is concerned. And you can kind of, there's people out there who kind of almost target these, knowing that they can really crash a price and then scoop it up cheap with just a small amount of sales. So that's, I guess, a little bit more context of why these things sometimes happen, especially on the lower volume exchanges. But Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's good. It's good to have context. So straight away, though, to anyone watching and they're listening and they understand how Balance works, they know, okay, if I take out a loan, I have a liquidation price. Now, we know in the first version of Balance, the liquidation price is a big deal because it will liquidate whatever you've put up as collateral. It doesn't just liquidate a component of it to pay off the bad debt. The whole thing gets liquidated. So there was a bit of activity, questions being asked, well, hang on, if this happened, I would be screwed. And this band protocol, this partnership, this Oracle price feed essentially is where it comes in. No, the actual price on the platform wouldn't fluctuate because it's got 6 different feeds. It aggregates, and there are a few other mechanisms in place to ensure flash crashes that are unique to a particular exchange don't impact the feed and the price that's being fed to the Balance protocol. So We will put the show notes, that article in the link. It actually was in this initial article in the partnership. They explained all of that in there, and it's a good one to be across, and it gives you a bit of peace of mind as well. Shout out to our sponsors at IconBet. Open source, decentralized gaming, no deposits, play straight from your wallet. IconBet, made by the players for the players. So, band, since we're on the band topic, we had a bit of news drop this week where ICONFi, they announced a partnership with band. So this was great. But what I thought was cool about it was that they're soon going to allow you to stake band in the IconFi app. Now, just for first time listeners, this is cool because IconFi is a wallet, but it's a centralized service. It's very much the Celsius version, but this is where now it's starting to deviate because the IconFi is essentially, think of it as a modern day crypto bank. So rather than you going to a bank and opening a traditional fiat account, instead of you having your wallet, you can download the IconFi, get KYC'd, verified, and you have some kind of support if you forget your password, etc., etc. There's an entity that manages this, so there's a trust factor there. But at the same time, it's been designed ground up to take advantage of, say, just earning interest on your stable coins that are on other networks. But at the same time, simplify the entire ICX staking and holding ICX process, right? So if you deposit your ICX into the app, you can stake it and it automatically claims and restakes and does all that for you instantly. You don't have to worry about it. So that's one. Two, now all of a sudden they've onboarded Band. There's this great partnership and you can actually put your band in there and stake it and automate that entire process via IconFi. So I think that's amazing. It's very different to that Celsius approach, and it's good. It's a little variation. It's offering what Celsius does, but it's also now starting to offer staking for those proof of stake coins integrated into the app. So it just simplifies it for the end user. What do you think, Iconographer?
Yeah, and I think from a marketing standpoint, the fact that when IconFi initially launched, it was basically ICX, Bitcoin, and I think Ethereum, but it was kind of a core set of coins, with Icon being the main pillar, just because it's an Icon, basically IconFi, who's basically spin-off product of Icon. But the fact that they're adding more assets, in this case Band, which I think over time, if you add more and more assets, more and more people from those communities start to say, hey, this is a good place to take my tokens. The same way that so many people from Icon flooded into IconFi when it initially opened, just because it was an easier way to deal with custody and the fact that you still earn rewards, the fact that you still get airdrops, everything like that. They've been very user friendly. So the fact that they're adding, it's almost like, when Coinbase adds more and more tokens gradually over time, it makes it more valuable and kind of gives good exposure. So the fact they're moving in this direction, I certainly don't expect Band to be the last one. So it's encouraging, and it hopefully brings more people. IconFi is part of the Icon community. It doesn't run on Icon, so it's a little different, but I think it is a good way to kind of bring people into the fold. I don't know what Band's staking rewards percentage are, but either way, I think when people use their Band and stake there, and then they see Icons at 11%, they might say, hey, maybe I'll take some and put it into Icon as well. So certainly a good move by IconFi.
Look, and this is so important to call out. I can literally see how much the Icon community grows every time we have these kind of integrations happen with other communities. And a great example initially kicked off with Seed, right? So we know about that. We got a influx of new users and not just from Icon's perspective, we got them using IconBet and various other platforms that we have available. So that was one. This is exactly the same. It's a simplified approach. It creates that marketing effect indirectly. And I'll give a third. Vibravid, for example, we did an interview with the guys. We know they had a CPS proposal. Now, Tron have a similar something on their side of things, and I'm not paying out, but they originally have come across, got their product on the Tron blockchain. They actually went funding to get upgrades, part of that process, and it got denied, and they have quite a big following, over 30,000 invested token holders who want to see their platform succeed. And do you know what the tagline that came out of that from Alex and the CEO? They said we were denied. On the flip side, we've gone to Icon and we've taken part in the CPS proposal, and decentralization works. They asked us to review, worked with us, and eventually our proposal has been voted to fund to get to integrate Icon into that ecosystem. So this is all just starting to come together. We it's not just starting dApps from ground up. It is integrating various communities, because we are going to be the aggregator of blockchains, but it's already happening. You can see it. If you really pay attention to the little details, it's actually happening, and this will start to happen at a much bigger scale as we keep getting more and the community keeps growing bigger. Anyway, I thought it's a great tie-in to really open everyone's eyes.
So pivoting a little bit to Project Nebula, which is another project that has a lot of following in the community. They've been doing they did their initial Planet Airdrop, or I'm sorry, Planet presale a while back. We had a interview podcast with them probably a month or so ago, maybe a little longer. It's hard to tell based on how quickly time is moving these days. But they had they had talked about the Spaceship Airdrop, or I guess Airdrop. I'm getting Airdrop as the default now. Talked about their Spaceship Airdrop, and it actually happened relatively recently. So, again, we knew it was happening, but it was certainly nice to see. They end up dropping 446 NFT spaceships, and sure enough, I checked my wallet. I had one there. There already is a marketplace for them too. So if you want to either sell or buy, I think the cheapest one was 150 ICX, something like that. I saw I can't remember what they call it exactly, but I think the most impressive and largest ship was going for, I think it was 5-digit levels of ICX. So I don't know if that's going to necessarily sell for that amount, but a pretty wide range of prices. And I think a pretty decent entry point on some of them. Or for those who didn't get the airdrop, but still want to get involved and own a spaceship in anticipation of the Project Nebula launch.
ICONFi, I can't believe we were late on this news. I mean, we forgot to cover this. This was last week's drop news. It happened. And I even recall after the episode went out, I was like, oh my God, how could we forget? This is such a big deal. Because this is, the original, everyone who got in the original crowd sale supported the project. Here, the project is close to launching. You can already see everyone who partook, if they were to sell just one of their planets, is, times 10, times 15 worth what the original purchase price was, and the game hasn't even launched. And now on top of it, everyone who's hoarded planets or held has been rewarded a retro drop in terms of spaceships, which are worth $200, over $200 each at the moment. So huge bit of news, and really good, really happy that everyone who supported Project Nebula being rewarded in this way. Kudos to the dev team. It was a great interview. Looking forward to having them on when they're ready to launch and talk through some of the new features they've implemented. But yeah, great bit of news. So next one, wanted to touch on this. So IAM, Icon Asset Management, the PREP. We've covered what they do, who they are. If you haven't heard until this point, do check out past episodes or jump onto the website. But just some news. So they are doing a token sale that is starting on the Monday, May 3rd. Not the Monday, on Monday, May 3rd. And essentially, very quickly, they're rewarding there's a public sale, and there's also everyone who voted for them from the start when they kicked off their PREP and their node, etc. There's allocated amounts to be sold in the public sale. One of the things that is important to note, the way the IAM token works, etc., 80% of all these funds are going into the AUM, that index portfolio of dividends that they have been stockpiling, that when you hold the IAM token represents, and you get dividends out of it. So it is not for personal gain. It is literally giving everyone an opportunity to, apart from getting it via an airdrop, if you vote for them, you can actually buy if you think there's value in this token. And remember, everything they do is supporting the Icon community. Their goal and the index fund that they're holding is essentially, tap, and all the various tokens that are starting with protocols that are starting to launch on Icon, they plan to acquire it and have it sitting in there, so indirectly supporting the Icon ecosystem. Your thoughts, Icongrapher?
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that. I will say that now with Balance launching as well, I anticipate that'll become part of their portfolio as well. Either because they'll be utilizing the protocol or because they might be buying them on the open market. So it's nice to see. I was looking at I posted this on Twitter. I was looking at my wallet today. The same, it's kind of my main core wallet. It's not my only one, but just looking at all the assets that I had in there, whether it was seed, whether it's balance or balance, the balance dollar, ICX, Metanix, IM token, Tap, all the other good ones. The number that are in there compared to say a year ago, it's really been impressive to watch it all flourish and to know that the Icon Asset Management's trying to capture as much of those as possible in order to return value for their token holders is pretty cool. And like I said, I anticipate Balance will soon become part of that portfolio.
Oh, I love that post, by the way. It's funny you did that because yesterday I was on the Icon tracker, and you can now actually connect your wallet to the Icon tracker, your own wallet, and click view details, and it'll just populate everything rather than pasting your address, etc. And the first thing you can do is drop down. So with IconX, if you haven't listed some of these new assets, it doesn't show in your wallet. But if you connect it to the tracker, you can actually drop down and it will show you everything you have in there. And I did the same thing. I was like, oh, wow, look at this, from just literally ICX and TAP. Now there's a whole world of new tokens that is actually useful, valid use cases and utility for each one of them. So you can
And
see
each
the
and I think yeah, and I think each one has a price, behind it, whether because it's traded on balance or because it's traded on U-Trade. It's not just a token where you're just kind of like, well, what the hell is this worth? You can actually, each one you can actually look up a price for the most part and see exactly what it's worth on the market. So you can really get a sense of just how valuable the portfolio has become.
Yep, agree.
The next bit of news is Piconbello, who's been a P-Rep since basically as long as I can remember. They launched a DAO for those who hold the PGT tokens, which are kind of the native Piconbello tokens. Basically, what it is they've created a Telegram group, and I think Piconbello is probably their most notable project is the tip bots, which are on. They've been on Telegram for a while now, so you can easily send ICX to and from people. You can tip them. You can send TAP. You can send basically, I think, any IRC token essentially to anyone who has a wallet tied to their Telegram account. They're also working on a Twitter bot. I can't remember off the top of my head what exactly the status of that is, but I know they've been working on that as well. So what they've done is they've created a pretty unique Telegram room that each person, again, because they're assigned a wallet to it, they need to have at least one PGT token, in which case they're allowed to participate in discussions regarding the governance of the PREP, the Pecan PREP. So they can say, hey, I'm a token holder, and I think you guys should vote this CPS project. I think you should vote to approve it, or whatever it might be. So, it's kind of I think it's the first of its kind. I haven't seen anything really done like this, especially with the way the authentication works. So pretty cool. I'm interested to see if there's more evolution in this process, and kind of it's another step in decentralization, I think. So whether it's others picking up this Telegram concept or maybe creating other kind of little platforms or whatever it might be. Obviously, we have Icon Vote as well, which operates a little bit similarly, but just kind of a unique approach from them. So that was kind of cool to see.
Yeah, love it. Ahead of its time, I think. I feel we will see P-Reps keep evolving in this manner where, as CPS and more proposals and things start to hit and Icon 2.0 is out and all that aspect starts to click in, we'll see P-Reps want to get input from the community. That's my personal view. That it's in their best interest. It will encourage voters to vote for them. So you can see they have already thought of this and put a governance token in place and kicking this off, which is great to see. So I'm really excited how it keeps evolving as well.
Another little nugget is from IconBet. This isn't huge news, but I thought it was kind of cool. They sponsored I assume a local football meaning soccer for my American friends here. And so, it's again nothing major, nothing huge, but it is kind of cool to see something outside the box. Further way to kind of promote an icon community into the broader community. And they've been certainly ramping up their outreach a little bit. Obviously, they've sponsored our podcast, which we're eternally grateful for. But they've hinted over time that as Tap becomes less of a marketing tool, because the distribution goes down, they're going to pivot to actually kind of getting people to play the actual casino, whether that's with more games or with sportsbook and poker, but also kind of these other outreach marketing initiatives. So again, nothing major, but just kind of cool to see, a bunch of real life people wearing IconBet shirts out in the real world. So just nice little touch.
Yeah, agree. That was brilliant. And then I saw posts in Australia as well. Close to home. So great to see. And you can just see like this is one. Obviously, I told the story. The guys reached out to us to sponsor the show as well, which we've been over the moon about and appreciate it as well. A lot of effort goes into making sure we get the content together, arranging everything in the background. So it was nice. To see, IconBet reach out to us and sponsor the show and tell us we're adding value to the ecosystem, which has been brilliant. So this is just, it shows that they just keep reaching out to the community if people are interested, and if it's a way to also help get the IconBet brand out there, because yes, Tap is, we're getting to that tail end of the distribution, and it's now quite an established ecosystem. There are all 8, is it 9 or 8 games with the
I can't even keep track anymore.
Exactly. As soon as poker hits, like, yeah, this is the time, and they're starting in the background to do these things, which is fantastic. So the other last bit, not little though, last bit. So I've been trying to get an exact launch date. Now you could be listening to this and the NFT Bazaar from Spartan Node may have launched, or it is literally moments away. So they are going to launch any moment now. So stay tuned for tweets or any bit of news articles that they're going to release. I know there's excitement around this. I know part of the beta testing, they've taken on a lot of feedback and tried to integrate most of that. Hence, I think they were pushing for a bit of a release early on, but they wanted to, make some fixes there. And with the feedback, and I know even from the being part of the testing community and stuff, there's a lot of people on there, artists and things, who are ready to start using the NFT Bazaar and putting NFTs up into the marketplace. So it's just another great exciting protocol to launch, and this is now this isn't to do with DeFi, it's in the NFT space, so it's great sidestep variation, something different again, and the Icon ecosystem evolving from all angles.
Yeah, it's nice to get two launches in 1 week. It'd been a few weeks before we got anything major, at least as far as my mind tells me and my memory tells me. So to have two kind of hotly anticipated projects coming out within days of each other, certainly a fun week for Iconists.
Agree. Then one other point, as of this morning, there has been we have the official Icon group. And what tends to happen is when these groups kick off, there's always everyone starts chiming in price. So what they did was they don't have price chat in the official Icon group. They've created a separate Icon price chat group. Right, and it's awesome in there. Oh, you wake up every day, there's 5,000 new messages in there. Everyone just posting charts, chatting away about all kinds of price action. So we can see that the balanced community is growing very quickly, already up to 3,000 people in the Telegram group. So Tony D has kicked off a balanced price chat group. So obviously the goal is to take that price conversation out of the balanced official Telegram room into that other room, so that people can start posting, questions, and we can really keep the conversation focused in that other Telegram room, and then people can talk about chat and price action, about balance, etc. So you'll probably see a few links. I'll put the link in the show notes as well. If you're just interested in talking price action for balance, definitely the space you want to be in. IconFi, I don't know if you knew that. It's just all happened in the background this morning.
I had noticed that just a little bit ago. So certainly, yeah, certainly, it's one thing you never want to have rooms for every little single topic, just because it bifurcates things. But I do think, as more and more people have balance and have a stake in it, there'll be more and more speculation on it, especially as more liquidity happens, and as OMM comes and you can do more stuff with balance. It'll be really interesting to watch it play out. So to have a separate dedicated room just for that, and separate from the actual protocol discussion, I think that's a good thing, and always nice to see members of the community take that initiative to set that up.
Yeah, love it. Now, one last thing, if you're probably listening to this and thinking, oh, they covered so much about balance, but they didn't touch on the airdrop. I keep seeing this question over and over again. 1 week from launch, 1 week has to pass before, even if you're not using the balanced protocol and you've got it staked, your ICX staked normally. After 1 week, when they do the first round of drips, you'll then be able to go onto the balance website and claim it. How, where, what do you click? It's not all visible at the moment. Once it's live, I'll probably do a tutorial. ICONFi will probably do an article. There'll be 100 tweets about it, but it's a week from now. So we're 2 days in, so a little bit longer to go, and then people will be able to claim their drip. So I think that's it. ICONFi, any other bits and pieces of wisdom you want to share?
Not really. I will say though, I was just checking out the transaction chart, and it's been pretty steady, hovering a little bit below 100K transactions, and then balance launch, and it has a nice little parabolic shoot up, well over 100K. So as more and more people hop on and utilize it, I'm looking forward to seeing that more and more. I thought it'd be one of those things where I hop on there and I'll do a couple transactions, get things kind of set up, and then kind of be done with it. But what I've noticed is, as I've kind of played around with it, wanted to test out different strategies, I ended up probably doing a lot more transactions than I thought, and not only generating transactions but also generating fees as well, which I wasn't too happy about to pay those, but they were small enough to where it wasn't a huge headache. But more importantly, it's showing that there's not only that generating transactions, but those network fees will presumably eventually go to the balance token holders. So a lot of value being created there, both for the Icon ecosystem and for the balance users and token holders.
Really, ICONFi, you feel stressed about the fees? I think that's the one time a smile hits my face.
Not stress, more just if I have a chance to pay a fee or not pay a fee, I'm always going to choose
yeah,
not to pay it. But at the same time, like I said, they are very, very small. They're certainly nowhere close to what you'd be paying on Ethereum for Uniswap or something like that. They're very negligible. Again, hardly ever
yeah,
notice them, but you do get reminded that you have to pay them, and that's
yeah.
but again, it all kind of cycles back to the user, so it's one little circle of life there.
It's true, because I think for me, and why I make that comment is, Ethereum have done some work in the background, and gas prices are seeming to come back in control at the moment. And just like we talk about OMM, I have a bit of my BAT token. I've supplied it as to earn interest in Compound. This I did a year ago. And ever since then, and I barely supplied anything, $100 worth of BAT basically. But every time I've gone to try and withdraw it, I've had to pay like $200 in fees. So and just the other day it's dropped to 35, but I still ummed and ahed about it, going 35. And then on Icon and Balance, just like you said, I noticed myself fumbling to play around a lot more. And every time a fee comes up, I don't even pay attention. I just hit next, 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 because I just don't care, because I know it's a steady fee at a set price, and it's so low, it's nothing compared to ETH. Anything I go to do, it's like, wait, let me check this fee to make sure I want to progress with this transaction. So it's a very different landscape, and that's what I love about the Icon ecosystem. Okay, yeah, look, ICONFi from my end, I think we've covered everything, run through the news. There's a ton more about balance, but like we called out earlier, we could keep going from forever along that train of thought. But if you have anything, reach out to us. I did notice, ICONFi, definitely you reposted your DeFi articles, so I've got a range of tutorials on balance. ICONFi has written a beautiful 8 to 9 piece article around all the different DeFi protocols that are launching on the Icon ecosystem, and the fact that balance is out now, it will make even more sense because you can see it in working. And I've noticed definitely the Telegram group has kicked up. A lot of people are joining, a lot of questions, and you're always in there answering. I'm making an effort to answer where I can as well. So the communities are there, they're set up. Ask the questions. If you're just unsure, ask the questions. I've noticed everyone gets help. People even private message me, and if I can, I try to answer where I can to support in any way I can, as long as it's valid questions around some of the protocols that are launching. So make sure you utilize all these communities that have set up. Once again, thanks for listening. If you like what you're hearing, please subscribe, share this around, especially Balance. We've been harping on about Balanced, and this time we started it at the front of the episode. So if you want someone to get clarity around it, get them to listen to this podcast. Thanks for listening.
See ya.